She stood on the front lawn, still clutching her son's gift box when the fist came down and the neighbor's phone started recording. "You think anyone cares?" The stepfather's roar echoed across the neighborhood, but the whole neighborhood was already watching. An 86-second video, and a cold revenge plan that would stretch for 86 days. When the court read its verdict, the entire neighborhood held its breath. The final footage played on the screen right in front of him. My name is Riley Hart, and for 31 years, I've been the family ATM that nobody remembers exists until the bill comes due. I work logistics coordination at Praxis Freight Systems here in Cedar Ridge, North Carolina. Not glamorous, but it keeps a roof over my head and food on the table for my 6-year-old son, Evan. That roof, by the way, is mine, all mine, a detail that would become very important later. 3 days ago was Evan's birthday. He'd been talking about it for weeks, drawing pictures of the dinosaur cake he wanted, practicing blowing out candles on imaginary desserts. My mother Paula called that morning not to wish him happy birthday, but to remind me about my sister Zoe's graduation party this weekend, 23 years old, finally finishing her associate's degree after 5 years, and apparently this required a celebration that would bring the whole family together. "We're thinking 2,800 should cover it," Paula said, like she was ordering coffee. "Your share, Darren's already put in for the venue." Darren, my stepfather, the man who'd moved into my childhood home 15 years ago and somehow convinced everyone he was the patriarch we'd been missing, the man who had opinions about my parenting, my spending, my choice to raise Evan alone after his father disappeared. The man whose name used to be on my mortgage because he'd helped me get a better interest rate when I was 25 and desperate. "Mom, it's Evan's birthday. You forgot again." Silence. Then, "Oh, well, we'll make it up to him at Zoe's party. Kill 2 birds. You know?" I hung up, opened my banking app, looked at the history of transfers. $3,000 for Zoe's car repair, $1,500 for her textbooks, $4,000 when Darren needed new equipment for his shop, Cole & Sons Automotive. Then I looked at the birthday cards Evan had received over the years from his grandmother and aunt. There were none. The text came through at 11:47 a.m., while I was trying to focus on shipment schedules. "Riley, this is unacceptable. The party is in 4 days. We need your contribution now. Don't make this difficult. Darren." My fingers moved before my brain could stop them. I opened the transfer screen, typed in $1, and added a memo, "Best wishes. Send." The beauty of refinancing is that you can do it quietly. 6 months ago, I'd finally qualified on my own better credit, stable job history. No need for a co-signer. The papers were signed, filed, and Darren Cole's name was no longer anywhere on my house. He just didn't know it yet. His response came at 2:15 p.m. "Very funny. We need to talk. I'll be by your place tonight at 7. I forwarded the message to my lawyer, Vanessa Lim, who I'd hired 3 months ago when I started documenting everything. She responded immediately. "Make sure you're recording. North Carolina is one-party consent." At 5:30 p.m., I walked Evan next door to Mrs. Alvarez's house. She'd made him a small birthday cake, the only one he'd gotten. "Mijo, you stay here and help me with my puzzle." "Okay," she said, understanding without my having to explain. She'd heard Darren's shouting matches before. At 6:45 p.m., I changed my locks. The locksmith, a young guy named Tommy, worked quickly. "Everything okay, ma'am?" he asked, noting my hands shaking as I paid him. "It will be," I said. At 6:58 p.m., I placed my phone in my pocket, voice recorder running. Then I went outside to wait on my front lawn, holding the gift I'd bought Evan, a dinosaur excavation kit he'd been begging for. They pulled up at 7:03 p.m., Darren's truck, with Paula in the passenger seat and Zoe in the back, all coming to gang up on the family disappointment. What happened next would last exactly 86 seconds and change everything. Darren stepped out first, all 240 pounds of him, wearing his Cole & Sons work shirt like armor. His face was already red, never a good sign. Paula followed, clutching her purse like she might need to swing it. Zoe stayed by the truck, arms crossed, recording everything on her phone like this was entertainment. "Inside. Now," Darren commanded, marching toward my front door. "We can talk out here," I said, staying on the lawn. Evan's gift box pressed against my chest. He reached for his key, the one I'd given him years ago for emergencies, and jammed it into the lock. Nothing. He tried again, harder, then looked at me with those cold gray eyes that used to make me shrink. "What did you do?" I changed my locks. "My house, my locks." "Your house." He laughed, ugly and sharp. "Girl, I co-signed for this place. My name's was on, past tense. I refinanced 6 months ago. You're trespassing." The transformation was instant. His face went from red to purple, veins bulging at his temples. "You ungrateful little..." That's when Nate Brooks opened his front door across the street. 6'3", former military police, now running a security company. He stood on his porch, phone already in his hand. "Everything okay over there?" "Riley," Nate called out. "Mind your own business," Darren shouted back. But Nate didn't move. Instead, he raised his phone, and I saw the subtle shift of his thumb he was recording. Darren grabbed my arm, hard enough to bruise. "You think you're clever? Think you can humiliate me with your little dollar transfer? Let go. $2,800. That's what you owe this family." "I don't owe you anything." He shoved me backward. I stumbled but kept my balance, still clutching Evan's gift. Paula rushed forward, not to help me but to back up her husband. "Riley, stop being dramatic. Just pay your share like you always do." "Like I always do?" I laughed, but it came out broken. "Name one birthday gift you've given Evan. One Christmas where you didn't forget he existed until I reminded you." "Don't you dare!" Darren stepped forward again, and that's when his fist came down, knocking the gift box from my hands. It hit the ground, the sound of breaking plastic inside making my chest tight. "You think anyone cares?" he roared, grabbing my shoulders and shaking me hard enough that my teeth clicked together. "You think you matter? You've been nothing but a burden since the day you were born. Your father knew it, that's why he left. And that boy of yours, he's gonna grow up just as worthless as—" "Stop! I'm calling the police!" Nate's voice boomed across the street. He was walking toward us now, phone steady, catching everything. Darren shoved me one more time, sending me to my knees on the grass. "This isn't over." I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and dialed 3 numbers. 911, what's your emergency? "I need police at 472 Maple Grove Lane. My stepfather is assaulting me on my property." Darren actually smiled. "Go ahead, call them. I'll tell them about the time you left Evan alone when he was 3. About your drinking problem that never existed but sure sounds convincing. You want to play this game? Girl." Officer Tiana Webb arrived at 7:22 p.m. A young black woman with kind eyes who took one look at the red marks on my arms and separated us immediately. She took photos, wrote down everyone's information, made Nate send her his video right there on scene. "Ma'am, do you want to press charges?" she asked me quietly while Darren ranted to her partner about family disputes and misunderstandings. "Yes," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yes, I do." The case number she gave me was 12 digits long. I memorized every one. As Darren was ordered off my property, he turned back one last time. "You just destroyed this family." "No," I said, finding my voice at last. "I'm finally done letting it destroy me." The 86-second video would soon destroy him instead. That night, after tucking Evan into bed with his glued-together dinosaur kit, I sat at my kitchen table and became a forensic investigator of my own life. First, the evidence. Nate had sent me his video, 86 seconds of crystal-clear footage showing everything from the first shove to Darren's "nobody cares" tirade. My doorbell camera had captured a different angle, including Zoe recording and doing nothing. I downloaded both files, then immediately uploaded them to 3 different cloud services. At 11:43 p.m., I created a folder labeled Case Documentation and started filling it. Screenshots of bank transfers dating back 4 years, $63,000 total, all one-way transactions to Paula, Darren, or for Zoe. The memo lines told their own story. Zoe's spring break trip, Mom's car repair, Darren's medical bills, Zoe's apartment deposit. Then I added screenshots of my texts asking about Evan's birthday parties, school plays, soccer games. The responses were either dismissive or non-existent. I photographed my arms under the bright bathroom light. The bruises were already darkening 4 distinct finger marks on each upper arm, a larger bruise spreading across my left shoulder. I took photos from every angle, adding timestamps and descriptions. At 1:17 a.m., I discovered something that made me laugh out loud, a text from Darren 2 years ago. "Your house is perfect for Zoe's graduation party. We'll use your backyard." Not asking, telling. I'd said yes then, not anymore. The next morning, I was at Vanessa Lim's office when she opened at 8 a.m. sharp. She reviewed everything with the thoroughness of someone who'd seen too many domestic violence cases go wrong. "The video is gold," she said, replaying Nate's footage on her laptop. "But we need to preserve it properly. Chain of custody matters." She showed me how to generate SHA-256 hash values for the video file's digital fingerprints that would prove the videos hadn't been altered. We saved copies on 2 separate external drives, one for her office safe, one for mine. Then she had me write out a detailed timeline while everything was fresh. "We're filing for an emergency protective order today," Vanessa explained. "But I want to go bigger. Criminal charges for assault and battery, trespassing charges since you'd revoked his implied permission, and we'll pursue a civil case for emotional distress and financial exploitation." "Can we really prove financial exploitation?" She pulled up the bank records I'd provided. $63,000 with zero reciprocation while they ignored your son's existence. That's a pattern of coercive control. Plus, I want to subpoena the records from when Darren co-signed your mortgage. Bet we'll find interesting discussions about him maintaining control. At 2:30 p.m., we were at the courthouse. The clerk who took our filing looked at the photos of my bruises and fast-tracked the EPO hearing for the next morning. That evening, my phone exploded. 17 missed calls from Paula, 12 from Zoe. 43 text messages ranging from "How dare you" to "This is all a misunderstanding" to "You're tearing this family apart over nothing." I forwarded everything to Vanessa. Then came the Facebook posts. Zoe had uploaded her video, of course she had, with the caption, "My sister assaulting my stepdad and playing victim. Some people will do anything for attention." Except her video showed something she hadn't counted on. It showed Darren advancing on me repeatedly while I backed away. It showed me holding a child's toy, not a weapon. It showed Nate Brooks calling out in concern before any police were called. Within an hour, the comments were not going Zoe's way. Did she really just post evidence of her stepdad assaulting her sister? "Girl, your dad looks unhinged. Team Riley." Anyone else see her just standing there recording while her sister gets attacked? Nate messaged me at 9:47 p.m. "My video's been shared in the neighborhood group. Darren's not going to be welcome at many barbecues anymore. Also, I've got 3 other neighbors who heard the yelling and are willing to testify." Mrs. Alvarez knocked on my door at 10:15 p.m. with homemade soup and a handwritten statement about the many times she'd heard Darren screaming at me over the years. The revolution wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to everyone who'd watched bullies win for too long. I saved everything, every screenshot, every message, every offer of support. My case documentation folder grew to 47 files by midnight. 86 days of justice were just beginning. The doorbell rang at 8:20 a.m. on a Tuesday, 4 days after the incident. I checked the camera first. A woman in a navy pantsuit holding a Cumberland County CPS badge. "Ms. Hart, I'm Jennifer Morse from Child Protective Services. We received a report of potential child neglect and need to conduct a welfare check." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I opened the door wide. "Please, come in." Would you like coffee? She seemed surprised by my calm response. Most people probably panic when CPS shows up. Evan's at school right now, I said, leading her to the living room. Oakwood Elementary, Ms. Peterson's first grade class. You're welcome to verify that. Jennifer pulled out her tablet. The report alleges that you leave your son unsupervised, that there's inadequate food in the home, and that you've exposed him to domestic violence. The only violence Evan might have been exposed to happened 4 days ago when my stepfather assaulted me on my front lawn. Evan was safely at my neighbor's house during the incident. I have video evidence and a police report. Case number. I rattled off the 12 digits from memory. I showed her my kitchen fully stocked pantry, fresh fruit on the counter. Evan's weekly meal plan stuck to the refrigerator with dinosaur magnets. His room was clean but lived in. Toys organized in labeled bins. Bookshelf overflowing with age-appropriate books. This is his reading chart from school, I said, pointing to the star-covered poster. He's reading above grade level. These are his medical records, every vaccination on schedule. Last checkup 2 months ago. Jennifer took photos, made notes. Ms. Hart, I need to ask, who do you think made this report? Someone who's angry that I filed assault charges against him. She looked up sharply. This is retaliation. I pulled out my phone, showed her the text from Darren sent yesterday. You want to play dirty? I can play dirty too. I'll need a copy of that, she said. At 3:45 p.m. Jennifer returned this time to observe Evan. She watched him do homework at the kitchen table, chattering about his best friend Marcus and their plan to find dinosaur bones at recess. She saw him help me make dinner, standing on his little stool to wash vegetables. She documented him brushing his teeth without being asked, reading a bedtime story to his stuffed T-Rex, and hugging me goodnight with an "I love you, Mommy." Ms. Hart, Jennifer said quietly as she prepared to leave, this case will be marked as unfounded. More importantly, I'll be noting in my report that this appears to be a malicious referral made as retaliation for domestic violence charges. That's a crime in North Carolina. The next morning, Vanessa was practically glowing. He just gave us ammunition for harassment charges. CPS takes false reports seriously, especially when used as a weapon in domestic violence cases. But Darren wasn't done. That afternoon, Nate texted me, "Your video is going viral." Someone shared it in the Cedar Ridge Community Facebook group. I opened Facebook to find chaos. The video, Nate's perfectly clear 86 seconds, had been shared over 300 times. But it wasn't just shared, it was analyzed. Someone had added subtitles. Another person had created a slow-motion version highlighting each shove. A local domestic violence advocate had written a lengthy post about recognizing coercive control. The comments were devastating for Darren. I knew that man was trouble. He screamed at a teenage cashier at Food Lion last month. Cole & Sons fixed my car last year. He overcharged me by $400 and got aggressive when I questioned it. That's Riley Hart. She helped my daughter with math tutoring for free. Darren's a monster. Then came the knockout blow. Someone tagged Cole & Sons Automotive's business page. This your owner assaulting women in front of children. By 6 p.m., the shop's Google reviews had plummeted. 1-star ratings poured in with comments about supporting domestic violence and unsafe for women customers. Paula called me sobbing at 8:12 p.m. How could you do this to us? Darren's losing customers. The shop might close. Darren did this to himself? It was just a push. You've destroyed his life over a push. No, Mom. He destroyed his own life the moment he put his hands on me, and you enabled him. She hung up on me. Zoe's text came at 11:37 p.m. Hope you're happy. Dad had to close the shop early because protesters showed up. You're ruining an innocent man over your victim complex. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded it to Vanessa with a note, still calling him Dad. Never called Evan her nephew. The truth was spreading faster than their lies could contain it, and we hadn't even gotten to court yet. The emergency protective order hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a Thursday. I arrived at 8:30, wearing my most professional outfit, the same black suit I'd worn to my father's funeral, though Darren didn't need to know that detail. Judge Patricia Thornton presided, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes that had seen every excuse in the book. Vanessa squeezed my hand as Darren entered with his lawyer, a sweating man named Brett Collins who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Your Honor," Vanessa began, "we're requesting a protective order based on clear evidence of assault, battery, and a pattern of coercive control." She connected her laptop to the courtroom screen. "I'd like to present People's Exhibit of video footage from a concerned neighbor." The 86 seconds played in perfect clarity on the large screen. Every shove, every grab, every word crystal clear, including, "You think anyone cares?" The courtroom was silent except for Darren's heavy breathing. "Exhibit B doorbell camera footage from my client's home. Different angle. This video showed Zoe recording, doing nothing to help. It showed Paula standing by as her daughter was assaulted. It showed me trying to protect a child's birthday gift. Exhibit C photographs of injuries sustained. The bruises looked even worse blown up on the screen. Purple and green fingerprints wrapped around my arms like shackles. Exhibit D CPS report filed as retaliation, found to be unfounded and malicious." Judge Thornton's expression hardened as Vanessa read Jennifer Morse's conclusion that the report was weaponized false reporting. Exhibit E pattern of financial exploitation. The bank records appeared $63,000 over 4 years, all one way. Brett Collins stood up, straightening his too-tight tie. "Your Honor, this is a family dispute blown out of proportion. Mr. Cole was simply trying to collect money rightfully owed for a family event." "By assaulting someone on their own property," Judge Thornton interrupted. "It was a miscommunication. Mr. Cole believed he still had rights to the property as a co-signer." "Which he doesn't," Vanessa interjected, producing the refinancing documents. "Mr. Cole's name was legally removed 6 months ago." The judge reviewed the papers. "So he had no right to attempt entry, no right to be on the property after being told to leave, and certainly no right to put his hands on Ms. Hart." "Your Honor," Brett tried again, "Mr. Cole is a respected business owner in this community, who's currently under investigation for false reporting to CPS." Judge Thornton noted, reading from the file, "I see here that he texted Ms. Hart saying, quote, 'You want to play dirty? I can play dirty too,' unquote, the day before the CPS report was filed." Darren's face was purple again, but his lawyer grabbed his arm before he could speak. Judge Thornton turned to me. "Ms. Hart, do you fear for your safety?" "Yes, Your Honor. He's escalated from financial demands to physical violence to weaponizing government agencies against my child. I don't know what's next." "Mr. Cole, do you have anything to say?" Darren stood up. "This is ridiculous. I helped raise that ungrateful—" "Stop!" The judge's voice could have frozen fire. "I've seen enough. I'm granting a temporary protective order for 30 days, to be reviewed for extension. Mr. Cole, you are prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Ms. Hart, her son, her residence, her workplace, and the child's school. No contact, direct or indirect, including through third parties." "This is my family," Darren shouted. "Not anymore," Judge Thornton replied coldly. "Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Additionally, I'm forwarding this case to the district attorney's office with a recommendation for criminal charges." As we left the courtroom, Vanessa was already on her phone with the DA's office. "They're fast-tracking it," she whispered. "Assault, battery, trespassing, and now false reporting to CPS. We're looking at multiple misdemeanors, possibly a felony for the fraudulent CPS report." That afternoon, an email arrived from Cole & Sons' business account, not from Darren, but from his business partner. "Darren Cole has been placed on administrative leave pending the resolution of legal matters. The shop remains committed to serving our community with integrity." At 4:20 p.m., Paula left a voicemail. "You got what you wanted. He can't work. We might lose everything. I hope you're satisfied. You vindictive little—" I deleted it before she finished, but kept the recording for evidence. The Cumberland County DA's office called at 5:15 p.m. Ms. Hart, this is Assistant District Attorney Marcus Washington. We're filing formal charges against Darren Cole. The trial date is set for 6 weeks from now. With your evidence and witness testimony, we're confident in a conviction. 6 weeks. 42 days to prepare for the final battle in my 86-day war. The restraining order was just paper, but I turned it into a fortress. First, I visited Oakwood Elementary at 7:45 a.m. Monday morning. The principal, Dr. Rebecca Santos, reviewed the order carefully while I provided Darren's photo and license plate number. We'll add him to our restricted list immediately, she assured me. Security will have his information, and Evan's teacher will be notified. If he comes within 500 feet of school property, we lock down and call police. Next stop, Praxis Freight Systems. My supervisor, James Wright, had already heard through the Cedar Ridge grapevine small towns have no secrets when assault videos go viral. Riley, we've got you, he said, leading me to human resources. Within an hour, security had Darren's information. My parking spot was moved to directly in front of the security camera, and I was approved for flexible hours to accommodate court dates. We can also arrange for security to walk you to your car. The HR director, Melinda, offered, and if you need to work from home some days, we'll make it happen. I sent formal written notices to every place Evan and I frequented his pediatrician, dentist, soccer league, the public library where we spent Saturday mornings. Each letter included a copy of the protective order and Darren's photo. The phrase "prohibited from contact" became my armor. That Wednesday, I discovered Darren's first attempt at circumvention, a text from an unknown number at 2:33 p.m. Riley, this is Tom from the shop. Darren wanted me to tell you he's sorry and wants to work this out. He says if you drop the charges, he'll forgive the $2,800. I screenshotted it, forwarded it to Vanessa, and she had a violation notice filed within an hour. Strike 1. Thursday brought strike 2. Zoe appeared at Evan's soccer practice, sitting in the bleachers with her phone out. She didn't approach us, but her presence was a message. I called Officer Webb directly. She's not covered by the order, Webb explained when she arrived. But given the context, we can document this as potential third-party contact. Zoe left when the police car pulled up, but not before making sure I saw her smirk. Friday was payday, and I enacted the next phase of my financial independence. I closed the joint savings account my mother had convinced me to keep for emergencies, the one she and Darren mysteriously always knew the balance of. $4,300 transferred to my new solo account at a different bank. The call came at 6:47 p.m. You cleaned out the emergency fund, Paula shrieked. My money, my account, my name. I left the $12 you contributed over 8 years. That was family money. Funny how family money only flows one direction. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up and blocked her number. Then I blocked Zoe, Darren's shop, and 17 other flying monkeys who'd been leaving increasingly hostile voicemails. But the real victory came Monday morning when Vanessa called at 9:15 a.m. Riley, you're going to love this. I subpoenaed the records from your original mortgage application, the one where Darren co-signed. Guess what I found? What? Emails between Darren and the loan officer. He specifically requested to be added as a co-signer even though you qualified on your own. The loan officer noted it was unusual, but proceeded at the client's insistence. He wanted his name on your house from day one. Can we use this already added to our civil suit? This shows long-term financial manipulation and intent to maintain control. We're now seeking damages plus punitive awards. That afternoon, Nate Brooks knocked on my door with a folder. Neighborhood solidarity, he said, handing it over. Inside were 7 written witness statements from neighbors who'd heard Darren's outbursts over the years. Mrs. Alvarez had written 3 pages detailing dates and times. The young couple from 2 houses down included Ring doorbell footage from 4 separate incidents they'd inadvertently captured. We've also started a neighborhood watch schedule, Nate added. Someone's always got eyes on your house. He shows up. We call it in immediately. I hadn't cried through any of this, not the assault, not the court hearings, not the retaliation, but standing in my doorway, holding proof that my community had my back. Tears finally came. "Thank you," I managed. "Nobody messes with our neighborhood," Nate said simply. "Besides, my wife's been wanting Darren gone ever since he screamed at her for parking too close to his truck at the grocery store." By the end of week 3, my fortress was complete. Legal protection in place, workplace secured, finances separated, community support activated. Darren had isolated me for years, but in trying to destroy me publicly, he'd given me an army. The trial was in 3 weeks. My evidence folder had grown to 89 documents. He thought no one cared. He was catastrophically wrong. The Cumberland County Courthouse was packed at 9 a.m. on Judgment Day. Word had spread through Cedar Ridge the viral video case was going to trial. I recognized faces from the grocery store, the gas station, Evan's school. The community had come to witness justice. Darren sat at the defendant's table, his cheap suit straining at the shoulders. He'd hired a new lawyer apparently Brett Collins had withdrawn from the case. This one, Patrick Steinberg, had the sharp look of someone who specialized in lost causes. Assistant District Attorney Marcus Washington stood to present the state's case. The projector screen descended, and suddenly Darren's face filled the wall frozen at the moment he screamed, "You think anyone cares?" "Ladies and gentlemen of the court," Washington began, "we'll show you exactly who cared." The first video played Nate's 86 seconds. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of Darren's recorded rage. Then came the doorbell footage, showing the assault from a second angle. The timestamps matched perfectly. Defense will try to claim this was edited or manipulated. Washington continued. "So we've prepared technical evidence." A digital forensics expert took the stand, explaining the hash values, the metadata, the chain of custody. "These videos are authentic and unaltered," he concluded. Nate Brooks testified next, steady and clear. "I saw Mr. Cole grab Ms. Hart, shake her, shove her to the ground. I started recording because I feared for her safety." Mrs. Alvarez followed, her voice trembling but determined. 5 years of screaming. Always Darren screaming at Riley. That poor girl walking on eggshells in her own home. Officer Webb presented the police report, the photographs of bruises, the CPS retaliation report. Jennifer Morse from CPS testified via video link about the malicious false report. Then Steinberg stood for the defense. "This is a family dispute blown out of proportion by social media hysteria," he argued. "Mr. Cole was trying to collect a debt. He got frustrated. It happens in families." He called Zoe to testify. She took the stand in a conservative dress I'd never seen her wear, playing the concerned sister. "Riley's always been dramatic," Zoe said. "She overreacts to everything. Darren was just trying to talk to her." Washington's cross-examination was surgical. "Ms. Cole, you were recording, correct?" "Yes." "Can you explain why you didn't intervene when your stepfather was shaking your sister?" It wasn't that serious." "Not serious." Washington played Zoe's own video on the screen. "Let's see what you thought was worth recording but not worth stopping." Her video was damning. It showed her getting closer for a better angle as Darren grabbed me, adjusting her position like a filmmaker rather than helping. No further questions. Paula testified next, claiming I'd always been difficult and ungrateful. But Washington had done his homework. "Mrs. Cole, how much money has Riley given your family over the past 4 years? I don't know exactly. $63,000. How much have you given her?" Silence. "How many birthday gifts have you given your grandson?" Paula's face reddened. "We've been struggling financially, but you had money for Zoe's vacation to Cancun last year, for the motorcycle Darren bought 6 months ago. When it was my turn to give my victim impact statement, I stood slowly. Vanessa had prepared me for this moment. "I'm not here to cry," I began, my voice steady. "I'm not here to beg for sympathy. I'm here because for too long, I believed Darren Cole when he said nobody cared. He isolated me, drained me financially, made me small in my own life. But when he attacked me on my lawn, at my house, in front of my son's bedroom window, he made a mistake. He did it where people could see. I turned to look directly at Darren. You asked if anyone cares. Nate Brooks cared enough to record you. 19 neighbors cared enough to write statements. My employer cared enough to provide security. The state of North Carolina cared enough to prosecute you. The 1,000 people who shared that video cared. You thought I was alone. You were wrong. Judge Thornton called a recess. 20 minutes later, we reconvened for the verdict. Darren Cole, this court finds you guilty of assault and battery in the 3rd degree, guilty of criminal trespass, guilty of filing a false report to Child Protective Services. The gavel came down on each count like thunder. Sentencing is as follows: 18 months probation, 200 hours of community service, mandatory anger management for 1 year. You will pay a fine of $8,000 plus all court costs and attorney fees. The protective order is extended for 4 years. Any violation will result in immediate incarceration. But I wasn't finished. As Darren stood to leave, Vanessa handed the bailiff another document. Your Honor, we're filing a civil suit for damages. $63,000 in financial exploitation, $50,000 in emotional distress, plus punitive damages. We're also requesting an immediate media restriction preventing Mr. Cole from discussing Ms. Hart or her son on any platform. Judge Thornton reviewed the filing. Granted, temporary restriction effective immediately pending civil proceedings. The gavel fell one final time, and Darren Cole's war against me officially ended in his complete defeat. The courtroom screen froze on the final frame, Darren's mouth half open, forever captured saying, "Anyone cares." The red recording indicator blinked in the corner like a heartbeat. Wreck, wreck, wreck. The bailiff moved toward Darren, who stood stunned at the defendant's table. His face had gone from purple to gray, aging 10 years in 10 seconds. Behind him, Paula slumped in her seat like a marionette with cut strings. Zoe stood frozen, her phone finally lowered, useless in her hands. Mr. Cole, you need to surrender your firearms within 48 hours. Judge Thornton continued, reading from her notes. You're prohibited from possessing weapons during your probation period. Darren's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear, but Darren wasn't listening. His eyes were fixed on that screen, on his own image, on the moment his world shattered. Additionally, the judge said, the court orders you to pay restitution for the destroyed property, the birthday gift you damaged during the assault. It was such a small detail, but it mattered. Evan's dinosaur excavation kit, $32.99, added to the mountain of consequences. The courtroom began to empty, but I didn't move. I sat there, holding the protective order extension, watching Darren being led toward the exit. He had to walk past me. For a moment, our eyes met. Riley, he started. No contact. Officer Webb stepped between us immediately. Not one word. Mr. Cole. They escorted him out, and that was it. No dramatic final confrontation, no shouting, just a broken bully leaving in silence while his victims stayed standing. In the hallway, Nate Brooks was surrounded by neighbors, all congratulating him on his testimony. Mrs. Alvarez hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. Mija, you did it. You stood up to him. My phone buzzed. A text from my supervisor at Praxis. Saw the news coverage. Take tomorrow off. Paid. You've earned it. News coverage. I hadn't even noticed the local news camera in the back of the courtroom. Paula and Zoe emerged from the courtroom, having to push past the crowd of supporters around me. Paula's face was streaked with mascara. I hope you're satisfied, she hissed as she passed. I am, I said simply. For the first time in years, I actually am. They left quickly. Zoe supporting Paula's arm. They looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of consequences they never thought would come. Vanessa appeared at my elbow, grinning. The civil suit's going to be a slam dunk. With today's criminal conviction, proving damages will be straightforward. You're looking at full restitution plus significant punitive damages. It was never about the money, I said. I know, but making him pay literally, that's justice too. At 3:45 p.m., I picked up Evan from school. He ran to me with a painting he'd made a house with 2 stick figures standing in front, surrounded by yellow sun rays. That's us. Mommy, in our happy house. Yeah, baby, our happy house. That evening, as I tucked him into bed, he asked, Mommy, why was Grandpa Darren so mean to you? I'd never called Darren his grandfather, but Evan had picked it up from Paula. It was time for an age-appropriate truth. Some people think being loud and scary makes them strong, but real strength is protecting the people you love and standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. Like you did, like we did, with help from our friends. At 10:17 p.m., alone in my kitchen, I opened my laptop. The video had been shared over 8,000 times. The comments section was a waterfall of support, stories from other survivors, promises to do better, to watch closer, to care more. One comment stopped me cold. I'm leaving my abuser tomorrow because of this. If Riley can do it, so can I. I closed the laptop and looked around my kitchen, in my house, where my son slept safely upstairs. The restraining order was magneted to the refrigerator next to Evan's dinosaur drawings. 4 years of protection. 4 years to rebuild without fear. Darren had asked if anyone cared. 86 seconds of video had answered him. A courtroom full of witnesses had answered him. A judge's gavel had answered him. And somewhere in Cedar Ridge, North Carolina, he sat alone with that answer, replaying the moment he lost everything to the woman he swore had nothing. The 86-day war was over. I had won. Thank you for listening to my story. I'm curious, where are you listening from? Please comment below and let me know what country or city you're in. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories like this, and share your thoughts about what you would have done in my situation. Your support means everything. And remember, someone always cares.